Okay, I'm going to try to quickly show you how to upgrade your old set of burr heads and stone heads to the new style with the bolt like you see attached to the mill. And we have a kit for that. And when you purchase the kit, it's going to come with 2 mounting rings, and it's going to come with a box of the Ardlite. It's a heavy-duty epoxy that you do mix together. It's a catalyst type epoxy. So it's going to you're going to want to just take those 2 tubes. You have two different tubes, and when we mix that, I'll show you, we'll mix those up equal parts. But the first thing we want to do is we're going to quickly prep your old stones, make sure that they're clean, and clean off the back. If yours are painted like that, clean them off. Your stainless steel burr shouldn't be painted at all. Just make sure it's clean. And then what we want to do is we want to rough this up a little bit. So there's several ways to do that, things you might have at home. You might have a piece of sandpaper, you have an old file, and you can just kind of scratch it up. Now, another way you can do that, I'm going to show you, is sandpaper works very good. I don't have a piece of sandpaper, but if you have a piece of rough sandpaper, you can take this file and just rough up the back of this, because this is where the glue is going to be attached. Now, the ultimate way is if you by chance have a little grinding disc that you can put in a drill. That works very good too. And then you can just simply run that around until your surface is good. If you have a grinding wheel at home, you can grinding on your bench, you can do that. But basically you want to just rough up that surface. And you can see I've done that pretty good to take the dullness, the shiny off of it. Blow that off. And you're going to want to do the same thing with the stainless steel burr. You'll see on this one it'll definitely give it a good rough surface on the metal. And that just gives something for the glue or the epoxy to bind to. And if you don't do that, then the plate doesn't bind. The sandpaper works really good for this if you have a piece of sandpaper at home. This just makes it go quicker. If you happen to have, like I said, a bench grinder, you could rough it up with a bench grinder. It doesn't take a lot. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. Okay, should be pretty good. It's hard to see in the light, but there's all kinds of little scratches and gouges on that now. So those are prepped. Those are ready to go. The piece that comes with it, if you want, you can take your sandpaper and rough it up a little bit too, just to give the best possible adhesion. Like I said, it doesn't take much. This is good raw steel. It hasn't had anything on it, so. But I found that if you just rough it up a little bit, it gives that epoxy a better hold. Okay, blow those off, and when we glue those, you're going to see that those holes are going to be easy to match up. They're going to sit right in the 2 holes. They're there, leaving your open hole normal. So now what we want to do, I'm going to slide those out of the way. I would suggest 2 things. One, get a paper towel for when you're ready to set the epoxy. But when you're mixing the epoxy, use something that you don't care about, a plate. Paper plate works good, and you're going to use all of the epoxy. This epoxy that comes with it will last for about 30 minutes before it starts to set. So you want to squeeze out all of the epoxy from both tubes. And once you've got that squeezed all out in the middle, you can use a plastic plastic knife. I'm going to use actually just an old mixing butter knife that I have. And all you do is mix that together for about 30 or 40 seconds until it's all uniform color. You get kind of a creamy color, and you'll know you're ready to apply it. And there's enough in this tube to do both stones. So there you go. Just want to make sure that. Okay, so now we have the glue, and we're going to apply the glue to the burr itself. And to do that, you're just going to take a little bit of it and use about half of the amount, and avoid the holes, just kind of butter it on like you're buttering some toast evenly. You want to cover as much of the metal as you can. And you want to avoid, you have the two holes that are even. Those are where your bolts are going to go. You want to avoid the top hole just a little. Stay away from that top hole because you don't really want to get a lot of glue down in that. Okay. Like I said, use about half and half. Try to gauge that. Once you've got all the metal covered, you are ready to put the first one. And like I said, I would suggest putting a paper towel down, especially if you're doing it on your counter and you don't want to get in trouble with your wife. Then you just simply put those and jiggle it a little bit. Put some pressure on it. I'm going to set that one aside right now. That's how we get them both done. I'm going to go ahead and do this next one. You can see it's not an extremely hard process, but it does, if you have a set of burrs and you don't want to invest in buying a whole new set of burrs, this is a great way to do it because you've upgraded your mill to the solid back system. And as you can see, there's just enough mixture to do both of those. I've covered all the metal. A nice layer. I'm going to set that aside. Set my, and again, I'm putting the two bolts heads into the holes. There's only one way it can fit. And then I would suggest you take a paper towel after you push the excess glue out, push down on it, and just wipe off any of the excess epoxy so that you don't have a lot of it. And once you get that one, wipe off the excess of this second one. It shouldn't be a lot because it's pretty well calculated out. But I grab one more paper towel. Just wipe off, like I said, wipe off the excess epoxy. Make sure that the hole on the back of your plate lines up nicely with the hole there, and the hole there. And a simple trick is to lay something across the mill, or something heavy. If you have a book or something you don't care about, just to keep a little pressure on that. And it should be in about 30 minutes. That should harden up and be just in the right position. I'm going to grab a heavier object to put on there. I'll show you what I use. All right, so there's something I use. I'm going to put this file across the middle once I know those holes are lined up. And this is just a heavy weight. You could use a rock. But I'm just going to put this on here to create some downward pressure to hold those plates in place. Make sure again they're lined up, everything looks good, and in approximately 30 minutes you will have those, the epoxy will have cured and they will not come off. Like I said, the trick is just make sure to take a look at it before your final inspection and notice if you have a little bit of glue coming out, and notice that the edges are even. If you do that, you'll have a perfect fit every time. That is it. Let those sit, and then even let them sit overnight. Let them cure for up to 24 hours like that, and you will have an upgraded burr and stone set.